Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to my friends across the pond. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. Welcome to the State of the Market. Well, today we got a big day. This is the day we've all been waiting for, what the entire week was about. It's Jerome Powell from Jackson Hole, folks. And he is speaking in approximately, probably a little over a minute. We're going to simulcast it, right? We're simulcasting it, right? And we're going to talk and trade while that's happening. So, heading into the meeting, as you can see, rates have changed, have been all over the board the last couple of days and weeks. We've gone from 100% chance of a rate cut. A month ago, we were at 58%. Then on this time last week, on Wednesday, we're at 100% chance of a rate cut, and we're now down to about 71. So rates are all over the place. But you can see currently we're definitely starting to get some action here. The S&P just absolutely exploded. Do we know has his speech been released? Because that is the only way that we can kind of interpret this. Because Powell, situation suggests downside risks to employment rising. Powell, shifting balance of risk may warrant adjusting policy. All right, folks. The market is getting what it wants. We are going to be off to the races today. As you can see, the Powell speech has definitely started moving things. I'm looking to see if I can find a link for this. Powell indicates conditions may warrant interest rate cuts as Fed proceeds carefully. All right, that is the news that we got. And as you can see in real time, the market definitely liked it. Now, who are the winners here? As you can see, the S&P is up 1%. The Qs are 1.2. The Qs are actually trailing. The Dow is leading. Take a look at the Russell. It is up $2. It is up 2.5%. $5.60. Just an absolutely phenomenal move out of the Russell 2000. Pretty amazing, right? And this is going to affect lots of assets. All right. On top of the fact the market is currently absolutely exploding. Gold is rallying. And I want to take a look at gold here. Bitcoin is up 1.7%. And Ethereum is up 5%. So we're seeing that the move in Ethereum has been really interesting. So I'm looking to see, are they not simulcasting this thing anywhere? There we go.
Our policy rate had stood at 5.25% to 5.5% for more than a year. That restrictive policy stance was appropriate to help bring down inflation and to foster a sustainable balance between aggregate demand and supply. Inflation had moved much closer to our objective, and the labor market had cooled from its formerly overheated state. Upside risks to inflation had diminished, but the unemployment rate had increased by almost a full percentage point, a development that historically has not occurred outside of recessions. Over the subsequent 3 Federal Open Market Committee meetings, we recalibrated our policy stance, setting the stage for the labor market to remain in balance near maximum employment over the past year. This year, the economy has faced new challenges. Significantly higher tariffs across our trading partners are remaking the global trading system. Tighter immigration policy has led to an abrupt slowdown
these
in labor
wheels,
force
guys.
growth. Over the longer
Look at
run,
this 5-minute
changes
candle.
in
This is the
tax,
most insane
spending, and
5-minute candle
regulatory
I've ever,
policies
I
may
think I've
also
seen.
have important implications for economic growth and productivity. There is significant uncertainty about where all of these policies will eventually settle and what their lasting effects on the economy will be. Changes in trade and immigration policies are affecting both demand and supply. In this environment, distinguishing
Wow.
cyclical developments from trend or structural developments is difficult. This distinction is critical.
I think this
because
is probably a
monetary
bit of an
policy can work to
overreaction,
stabilize cyclical
but
fluctuations, but can do
this
little to
definitely sets the
alter
Russell
structural
2000
changes.
to
The
absolutely
labor market
move.
is a case in point.
And
The July employment report released earlier
Vicky
this
is mentioning
month
that the VIX is
showed
down
that payroll
1.3. I think
job
the
growth
VIX is going to
slowed
be
to an
down more by
average
the end of the
pace of
day.
only 35,000 per month over
We're
the
like
past 3
this
months, down from
because we'll get some calm next
168,000 per
week.
month during 2024. This slowdown is much larger than assessed just a month ago, as the earlier figures for May and June were revised down substantially. But it does not appear that the slowdown in job growth has opened up a large margin of slack in the labor market, an outcome we want to avoid. The unemployment rate, while edging up in July, stands at a historically low level of 4.2% and has been broadly stable over the past year. Other indicators of labor market conditions are also little changed or have softened only modestly, including quits, layoffs, the ratio of vacancies to unemployment, and nominal wage growth. Labor supply has softened in line with demand, sharply lowering the.
If you're here in Massachusetts and are looking for a solution to cool your home, then this is hands down the system you need to be looking at.
This
It's a
is
heat
not
pump
the system
So
you
not
need,
only will
folks.
it cool your home perfectly during the summer,
Click
but
the
it will
skip,
also replace your furnace
Christian.
when the winter hits. And believe it or not, it's actually about 4 times more efficient than a typical gas furnace. They're also super quiet, and most homes will qualify for rebates. But the best part, right now, we can get you this exact system for $0 down and starting at just $83 a month. Click on the Learn More below, and we'll text you over a little more
Do
information.
not click on
if
the
you're
Learn More
interested in
below.
any way. Again, this is a system that cools and heats your home. It's super efficient, and we can get you started without needing to put a single dollar down in payments, starting at just $83 a month. Click below for more details.
Don't click below. Christian, you need to skip that ad, or whoever's running it needs to skip that ad.
Reflects
There we
slower
go.
growth of supply or
Thank
potential
you.
output. Turning to inflation, higher tariffs
YouTube.
have begun to push up prices in some categories of goods. Estimates based on the latest available data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.6% over the 12 months ending in July. Excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.9%, above their level of a year ago. Within core, prices of goods increased 1.1% over the past 12 months, a notable shift from the modest decline seen over the course of 2024. In contrast, housing services inflation remains on a downward trend.
We
and
continue to just
non-housing
kind
services inflation is still running at a level a
be
bit
sitting here at
above
about
what has been historically
up 75.
consistent with
Again, that
2%
Russell
inflation.
is off to the
The
races.
effects of tariffs on consumer prices are now clearly visible.
As a trade,
expect
if you're
those
looking
effects to
for
accumulate
kind of how,
over
what's an
coming months,
easy way to play
with high
this?
uncertainty about both timing and amounts. The question that matters for monetary
I'd be
policy
looking
is
at
whether
like
these price
TNA,
increases are
which is
likely to
the
materially raise the
triple
risk
bull
of an ongoing inflation
Russell.
problem. A reasonable base case
It's actually
is that the effects
underperforming the
will be
Russell
relatively
itself.
short-lived, a one-time shift in the price level. Of
I don't
course,
know, it's about right.
one time does not mean all at once. It will continue to take time for tariff increases to work their way through supply chains and distribution networks. Moreover, tariff rates continue to evolve, potentially prolonging the adjustment process. It's also possible, however, that the upward pressure
Russell's
on
now up
prices from
6.
tariffs could spur a more lasting
Has
inflation
completely
dynamic,
broken out. We're
and
over the
that is a
highs
risk to be
from
assessed and managed.
last week now.
One possibility
I'm
is
telling
that
you guys,
workers who see
the
their
Russell's
real incomes
$232.
decline because
It
of higher
is
prices demand
still
and get higher wages from employers setting off
about
adverse
$12
wage
bucks off
price
of the
dynamics.
all-time high
Given that the labor market is not
for
particularly tight
IWM.
and faces increasing downside risks, that outcome does not seem likely. Another
Yeah, I mean,
possibility
I
is
think
that
there is
inflation
real
expectations
upside in the
could move
Russell.
up,
I mean, it's not
dragging
even an
actual
all-time
inflation
high.
with them.
While the
Inflation has been
Qs,
above our target for more than
triple
4
Q,
years and remains
basically
a prominent
sitting
concern for
there.
households and businesses.
You know, the all-time
Measures
high
of
in the
longer-term
Qs was
inflation
touched on
expectations,
August
however,
13th.
as reflected in market and survey-based measures, appear to remain well anchored and consistent with our longer-run inflation objective of 2%. Of course, we cannot take the stability
The
of inflation
S&P
expectations
is
for
just
granted.
below its
Come what
all-time
may,
high.
we will not allow a one-time increase in the price level to become
The
an
all-time high
ongoing
close
inflation problem.
was
So, putting the pieces together, what are the implications for monetary policy? In the near term,
64,
risks to
68,
inflation
54.
are tilted
We're
to the
currently
upside,
10 bucks short,
and
10
risks
bucks
to
in the
employment to the
S&P.
downside.
So
a
point
challenging
in SPY
situation.
below the all-time high.
When our
So think
goals
about
are
that.
in tension like this,
SPY
our framework calls
is
for us to balance
1
both
point
sides of our dual mandate.
below its all-time high. Call that a
Our
third of
policy
a
rate
percent.
is now 100 basis points closer
IWM
to neutral than it was a year ago. And the stability of
is
the unemployment
13
rate
bucks below its
and other
all-time
labor
high.
market measures allows
Call
us
that
to proceed
5%.
carefully as we consider changes to
A
our
little bit
policy
more than
stance.
that, actually. So
Nonetheless, with
if I'm
policy
looking
in
for
restricted
upside,
territory,
I'm looking at the
the
Russell
baseline
2000.
outlook and the shifting balance of
Plain and
risks
simple.
may warrant adjusting our policy stance. Monetary policy is not on a preset course. FOMC members will
How far
make
out
these
would I take
decisions
TNA?
based solely on their assessment of the data and its implications for the economic outlook and the balance of risks. We will never deviate from that approach.
Wow, that thing is just
So,
exploding.
Turning then to my second topic. Our monetary policy framework is built on the unchanging foundation of our mandate from Congress to
The
foster
September
maximum employment
5th,
and stable prices for the American people.
41 calls.
We remain fully committed to fulfilling our statutory mandate, and the revisions to our framework will support that mission across a broad
Are
range of
about
economic conditions.
$1.75.
Our
That
revised
would be
statement
where I
on
would
longer
go.
run goals and monetary policy strategy, which
You could
we
also
refer
go out to
as our
October
consensus statement to save time, describes how we pursue our dual mandate goals.
and pick up like the
It is
45 calls
designed
for
to give the public
220.
a clear sense of how we think about monetary
Any zero
policy,
DTE
and that
ideas,
understanding is important.
you need
both
the
for
market to calm
transparency
down
and
before you
accountability,
develop.
and for
I would
making monetary
imagine we're
policy more
going
effective.
to actually give up
The
some
changes
of
we made in
this.
this review are a natural progression grounded in our
Not
ever-evolving understanding of our
boom.
economy.
I mean, the
We continue to
downside
build upon the initial
here
consensus
is,
statement adopted in 2012
you know,
under
probably
Chairman Ben Bernanke's
your upside
leadership.
would be maybe
Today's
64.
revised statement is the outcome
You know,
of
the
the
all-time
second
high would
public
put us up
review of our
100
framework,
points.
which we conduct at 5-year intervals.
Or we're going to relax a
This
little
year's
bit
review
and pull
included
down to
3
like
elements: Fed
64,
listens events at reserve banks around the country, a
40.
flagship research conference, and policymaker discussions
Right
and
now,
deliberations
I mean, there's
supported
right
by
now
staff
we're going to
analysis
see what Powell
and a
has to say,
series of FOMC meetings.
and then I'll take you through a couple trade
In
ideas.
approaching this year's review, a key objective has
Because
been to make sure
really, this
that our
is the
framework is
seminal moment
suitable
for the
across
rest
a
of
broad
the
range of economic conditions.
you
At
know,
the same
through
time, the
NVIDIA
framework
earnings.
needs to evolve with changes in the structure of the economy and our understanding of those changes. The Great Depression presented different challenges from those of the Great Inflation and the Great Moderation, which in turn are different from the ones we face today.
And again,
At the time of the last
options
review, we were living
too
in a new
cheap
normal,
into this move.
characterized by the proximity of interest rates to
Do you
the
guys
effective
know
lower
how
bound,
much
or ELB, along with low growth, low
what the
inflation,
straddle
and
price
very flat
was
Phillips
on
curve, meaning that inflation was not very responsive
the S&P 500
to
leading into
slackening
this?
economy. To me, a statistic that captures that era is that our policy rate was stuck at the ELB for 7 long years following the onset of the global financial crisis in late 2008. Many here will recall the sluggish growth and painfully slow recovery of that era. It appeared highly likely that if the economy experienced even a mild downturn, our policy rate would be back at the ELB very quickly,
Nice, good job.
probably for another extended period. Inflation and inflation expectations could then decline in a weak economy, raising real interest rates as nominal rates were pinned near zero. Higher real rates would further weigh on job growth and reinforce the downward pressure on inflation and inflation expectations, triggering an adverse dynamic. The economic conditions that brought the policy rate to the ELB and drove the 2020 framework changes were thought to be rooted in slow-moving global factors that would persist for an extended period. And they might well have done so, if not for the pandemic.
Wow, we're up 90 now.
The 2020 consensus statement included several features that addressed the ELB-related risks that had become increasingly prominent over the preceding 2 decades. We emphasized the importance of anchored inflation, longer-term inflation expectations, to support both our price stability and maximum employment goals. Drawing on an extensive literature on strategies to mitigate risks associated with the ELB, we adopted flexible average inflation targeting, a makeup strategy to ensure that inflation expectations would remain well anchored, even with the ELB constraint. In particular, we said that following periods when inflation had been running persistently above 2%, appropriate monetary policy would likely aim to achieve inflation moderately above 2% for some time.
And now, folks,
In the event,
this is an
Low
opportunity to take
inflation
some
in the
dollars off the
ELB.
table as well.
the post-pandemic reopening brought the highest inflation in 40 years to economies around the world. Like most other central banks and private sector analysts, through year-end 2021, we thought that inflation would subside fairly quickly without a sharp tightening in our policy stance, as this slide will show. When it became clear this was not the case, we responded forcefully, raising our policy rate by 5.25 percentage points over 16 months. That action, combined with
They
the
continue to
unwinding of
underprice
pandemic supply
movement in
disruptions,
this market.
contributed to inflation moving much closer to our target without the painful rise in unemployment that has accompanied previous efforts to counter high inflation. This year's review considered how economic conditions have evolved over
My
the past
gosh, is
5
he
years.
boring?
During this period, we saw that the inflation situation can change rapidly in the
Paul's
face
not
of
sharing
large
his
shocks.
screen.
In addition, interest rates are now substantially higher than was the case during
Yeah,
the era
Ethereum
between
is
the global financial
absolutely
crisis
doing
and
well.
the pandemic. With inflation above target, our policy rate is restrictive, modestly so in my view. We cannot say for certain where rates will settle out over the longer run, but their neutral rate may now be higher than during the 2010s, reflecting changes in productivity, demographics, fiscal policy, and other factors that affect the balance
everything is
between
up today,
saving and
guys.
investment. During the review, we discussed how the 2020
Cody.
statement's focus on the ELB may have complicated communications about our response to high inflation. We concluded that the emphasis on an overly specific set of economic conditions may have led to
All right,
some
we'll turn him
confusion,
off in about 4
and as a
minutes and I'll
result, we
go
made
through
several
everything he's saying.
important changes to the consensus statement to reflect that insight.
I feel like I'm waiting for the orange crap
We
report.
removed language indicating that the ELB was a
Mortimer.
defining feature of the economic
Yeah, we're up
landscape.
100 now. This is a new
Instead,
high.
We noted that our monetary policy strategy is designed to promote maximum employment and stable prices across a broad range of economic conditions. The difficulty of operating near the ELB remains
This
a
is just
potential
an
concern,
absolutely incredible
but
move.
it is not our primary focus. The revised statement reiterates that the committee is prepared to use its full range of tools to achieve its maximum employment and price stability goals, particularly if the federal funds rate is constrained by the ELB. Second, we returned to a framework of flexible inflation targeting and eliminated the makeup strategy. As it turned out, the idea of an intentional moderate inflation overshoot had proved irrelevant. There was nothing intentional or moderate about the inflation that arrived a few months after we announced our 2020 changes to the consensus statement, as I acknowledged publicly in 2021. Well-anchored inflation expectations were critical to our success in bringing down inflation without a sharp increase in unemployment. Anchored expectations promote the return of inflation to target when adverse shocks drive inflation higher and limit the risk of deflation when the economy
here we go.
weakens. Further, they allow monetary policy to support maximum employment in economic downturns without compromising price stability. Our revised statement emphasizes our commitment to act forcefully to ensure that longer-term inflation expectations remain well anchored to the benefit of both sides of our dual mandate. It also notes that price stability is essential for a sound and stable economy and supports the well-being of all Americans. This theme came through loud and clear at our Fed Listens events. The past 5 years have been a painful reminder of the hardship that high inflation imposes, especially on those least able to meet the higher costs of necessities. Third, our 2020 statement said that we would mitigate shortfalls rather than deviations from maximum employment. The use of shortfalls reflected the insight that our real-time assessments
we
of the
are all
natural
over the
rate of
place.
unemployment, and hence of maximum employment, are highly uncertain. The later years of the post-global financial crisis recovery featured employment running for an extended period above mainstream estimates of its sustainable level, along with inflation running persistently below our 2% target. In the absence of inflationary pressures,
Yeah.
it might not
Back
be
to
necessary
kinda where we
to
were.
tighten policy based solely on uncertain real-time estimates of the natural rate of unemployment. We still have that view, but our use of the term shortfalls was not always interpreted as intended, raising communications challenges. In particular, the use of shortfalls was not intended as a commitment to permanently forswear preemption or to ignore labor market tightness. Accordingly, we removed shortfalls from our statement. Instead, the revised document now states more precisely that the committee recognizes that employment may run at times above real-time assessments of maximum employment without necessarily creating risks to price stability. Of course, preemptive action would likely be warranted if tightness in the labor market
I wish you would
or other
tuck the
factors
Caldwell.
pose risks to price stability. The revised statement also notes that maximum employment is the highest level of employment that can be achieved on a sustained basis in a
He just
context of price.
Trump loves him now.
This
You
focus
kidding me?
on promoting a strong labor market underscores
Take a look
the
at the CME
principle
FedWatch tool. All right.
durably achieving maximum.
Okay. Let's kill Powell and look at what's happened. Before I started, the odds of a rate cut in September were 71%. They're now 90 and rising. So you can actually see here, if you look down here, take a look at the difference. Yesterday, 75%, today, 89%. If you want to know why the Russell 2000 is exploding so much, that is why, my friends. And the odds of a second rate cut in October are now have moved about, a full 10%. And if you look in December, that third rate cut is back. They've got about a 38% chance of a third rate cut. So the result of that is you're going to see things like the Russell 2000, things that are really interest rate sensitive, move much higher. And again, taking a look at the Russell, I want to go to the 2-year. Let's scroll out here. The all-time high for the Russell was in November of 2024. When it got as high as $245. I believe that is the all-time high. If I go back 5 years, I might. Nope, that is the all-time high. So if the Russell is going to catch up, let's look at these different indexes. Make that more blue. All right. On a 1 year, you can see the triple Q is up 20%. The S&P is up 15%. And the Dow is up 11 and the Russell is up 8. In the last 6 months, you've seen the Russell starting today, the Russell is catching up to the S&P 500 and the Qs. And in the last 3 months, the Russell 2000 is the best performing ETF. IWM. And I think with this interest rate shift, there is 100% odds that that will continue. So as I'm trading, I'm looking for opportunities to take advantage of this shift. And this is not something new, folks. It's not like I'm pulling this out of thin air. How many people read my emails that I put out? Raise your hand. I put out an email to Delta Strike, DTE. I do a video for, I do a volatility edge report that goes out every day. I write it up in the pit report. What have I been kind of pounding the table here on, folks? Is me talking about the Russell 2000 being the leader anything new? Thank you. So, how do you play this? Well, I've played this in several ways. All right, in my investments. I know. I'll be ready. We are. So I'm going to give you 2 ideas here. All right. One, IWM, an in the money call. And you're saying, really? Now, it's got a dividend on the 16th of September, so you have to be on top of that. But, if you go to September 12th, the 225 calls, I'd put in like a $10 bid for those. No, you cannot call me Russell. Now, if you want to be a little more active, if you want to attack this a little more, we're going to look at TNA. I'm going to go to September 5th, and I'm going to pick up the 41 calls. Those are going to be about $1.90. Those are going to be $1.90. Now, I have to head out. I've given you a couple of good ideas, and then buying VIX puts is one of the biggest no-brainers out there. The VIX is going to be 13, is going to be sub 13 next week, folks. I am a buyer of the September 17 puts. Full disclosure, I already own a bunch. You can also look at UVIX, and the UVIX September next Friday, so the 29th, the 13 puts are about 65 cents. Those will pay. Folks, I want you to be checking your mail. Leisha and I are going to be doing an event next week. I want you to be watching your email, watching your text messages for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. She's going to walk through all the stuff that you want to learn from her: charting, pitchforks, candles, and how she outperformed the S&P when we're in the middle of a major downfall in the market. So make sure you check that out. All right, everybody. I have to go catch a flight to New Orleans. I will wish Pam Feeney a happy birthday. And I hope everybody here has an amazing weekend. Again, open those emails. I'm actually writing a really interesting email right now while I'm on the plane that you're going to want to read. So make sure you check that out. All right, folks. I'm Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. I'm the son of John Victor Sebastian. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Catch you later.